Good morning and evening, everybody. Welcome to SciPEP, Communicating the Future, Engaging the Public in Basic Science. We're so glad you're here.
Hey, everybody. We're happy today to share that we're joined virtually for a few words of welcome from Cynthia Friend, President of the Kavli Foundation, and Harriet Kung, Deputy Director for Science at the U.S. Department of Energy.
I'd like to welcome you to this inaugural event for the Science Public Engagement Partnership, or SciPEP.
This partnership was born from a common interest in basic science engagement between DOE Office of Science and the Kavli Foundation.
We're going to take a critical look on how to engage the public in basic science research specifically.
By exploring the why, what, and how of the relationship between the public and basic science, this conference will enable us to make a meaningful difference in our approach to basic science communication.
I'd like to specifically take this opportunity to thank the Department of Energy and, in particular, Dr. Harriet Kung for their partnership. This is a great new opportunity to forge new relationships and new partnerships to engage the public in the communication of basic science.
On behalf of DOE Office of Science, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Cynthia Friend and the Kavli Foundation for this unique collaboration, establishing a true partnership to advance our common mission and goal of supporting basic science.
I think we have a terrific program lined up, and I hope you'll take full advantage of all that this conference has to offer.
I look forward to learning more about the best practices and innovative approaches to basic science communication from across the science landscape. Thank you for joining us as we embark on an endeavor to make the relationship between public and basic science flourish.
In the meantime, I hope you'll have fun, enjoy yourself, and I look forward to seeing you at future events.
Hi, welcome again. Rick, Keegan, Erika, and I are so happy to be here this morning at Communicating the Future, Engaging the Public in Basic Science. We are thrilled to kick off this first of its kind conference and discussion and the first formal event of SciPEP, the Science Public Engagement Partnership between the Kavli Foundation and the Department of Energy. We'll spend a few minutes in this opening session sharing what SciPEP is, why we exist, what we hope SciPEP will do. We'll also cover what this conference is about, what to expect the next 2 days, how to be sure you get the most out of it, and also how we can be sure we get the most out of you while you're here. So first, a little history about SciPEP and why and how it came to be. The Kavli Foundation and the Department of Energy have a number of things in common. We both deeply care about and fund basic science, by which we mean fundamental, discovery, curiosity-driven research. We also sometimes define basic science as simply not applied science. We also both care very deeply about a strong relationship between science and the public. The Kavli Foundation's mission is to advance science for the benefit of humanity. And when we created a program in public engagement with science 3 years ago, we started really looking at this humanity piece. How is science that we fund, basic science, or even science more broadly, connected to the public? How is it shared with the public? How is the public involved in science, from the questions we ask to how we do the research? So beginning in 2019, Kavli and DOE leadership started discussing these shared interests. We acknowledge that while there has been a lot of attention, practice, and scholarship about science communication and public engagement in science, there was really not much specific to basic science. We also both recognize that many scientists we fund and collaborate with are engaging the public or are interested in doing so. And given that we care about engagement practices that are effective, meaning based on scholarship and best practices, and that they are also sustainable, meaning they are recognized and supported, we started specifically asking questions about what we know about engaging the public in basic science. In addition to this being mission relevant for Kavli and DOE, this conference and this initiative is of great personal interest to me. I've spent my career helping scientists become effective communicators and elevating the profession of science communication and public engagement with science professionals, and pushing engagement professionals like myself to be aware of and apply relevant scholarship to our work. And I know how hard that can be. It's hard to access the scholarship. It's hard to make sense of how to apply it to practice. It's hard to get sustainable funding. And I've worked with both applied and basic scientists. And the more I work with basic scientists, the more I've come to realize that conversations at science communication and engagement conferences or papers I see in the literature are almost entirely about applied or controversial science. So we at Kavli and DOE see this as a huge opportunity. If we care about basic science and its relationship to the public, let's create a space to focus on basic science in the public. We need to take stock of what that relationship is, what we know about effective engagement, about basic science, what we know about effective engagement in communications generally, and what of that is applicable or not to basic science. And that's what this conference is meant to start a conversation about, ultimately to help ensure that basic scientists and professionals who want to connect with the public have the tools, resources, and insights to do so effectively. Over to Rick to talk about what we have in mind over the next 2 days and with the SciPEP initiative. Rick?
Hello again, everybody. Brooke and I and the rest of the team are just so happy to share one of the first offerings of what I think is a really remarkable relationship, a remarkable partnership between a leading federal science agency, the Department of Energy, and a leading scientific philanthropy, the Kavli Foundation. It's something that speaks to the DNA of both our organizations. Now, many of you know me, and I see a lot of you among the registrants today, and you'll know that I started my career at the research bench itself, specifically the entomology research bench, and specifically in that most basic of basic sciences, taxonomy, the naming of organisms. And well into my graduate work, I spent one very hot summer, just like it is here in College Park, Maryland today, as a curatorial assistant at the Smithsonian. It's in an unair-conditioned garret of the Smithsonian's Natural History Museum, doing what a lot of young taxonomists do. I got, on a really responsible day, I got to move insects from one box to another. I got to tidy up data labels. I got to glue on broken legs and wings. And it was, well, really boring. A lot of taxonomy is really boring. But my days were enlivened by conversations I heard coming up from the ventilation ducts, and all of us assistants would cluster around them because that's where the only airflow in that stifling attic was. One duct came up from the insect zoo. If you've ever visited, it's a terrific place at the Natural History Museum. Now the Orkin Insect Zoo, a masterstroke of corporate branding for those of you doing corporate PR. It's a large live exhibit with spiders and insects and scorpions and millipedes and hissing cockroaches and a honeybee hive. And those conversations were fascinating. The other duct came up from the chairman's office in entomology, and those conversations too were enlightening. So the kids at the insect zoo, those conversations jazzed me every single day and reinforced why I was doing all this work in the first place. They'd ask these basic science questions like, why does it have 6 legs for the insects, 8 legs for the spiders, 102 legs for the millipedes? Why is it blue or green or bright red? Does it bite? Does it sting? Is it poison? And all of these were terrific questions. The conversation from the chairman's office were equally enlightening and also basic science questions. Is this phylum monophyletic or multi-branched? Was this set of genes conserved? What did the extinct common ancestor of this branch of the phylogeny look like? Well, it became pretty clear, pretty fast, that the scientists in the chairman's office probably had all the answers, but they probably didn't have the skills to engage the kids at the insect zoo, at least not at the level that was appropriate for them. So when I went back to grad school after that summer, I dropped out of entomology and enrolled in a public relations program with an emphasis in science communication. And that's where I know most of you from work I've done across the federal government, 7 agencies and counting, on the Hill, at the White House, at research universities, the National Academy of Sciences, and at conferences like this, all in support of public understanding of basic science. And my understanding of science communication around basic science has evolved a lot over those intervening decades since that unair-conditioned garret at the Smithsonian. What I first thought was just a translation job grew with the field of science communication as we gradually transitioned from public literacy to public understanding to public engagement. And my understanding of what it takes to be a good advocate for engaging the public with basic science has grown apace. And it needs to continue growing just as our field does. So this conference is very important to me. It takes my career full circle from those early questions at the insect zoo, and it frames them as a basic research needs conference, which those of you familiar with DOE know is how we identify gaps in our understanding, propose the ways to address them, and craft a plan to get the community to get behind. And that's what this conference is all about: planning, scholarship, training, and practice opportunities to advance the communication of basic science. Erika is going to share a little bit about who is with us today to help us.
Thanks, Rick. So my name is Erika Shugart, and I'm the Executive Director of the National Science Teaching Association and the Chair of the Steering Committee for SciPEP. And I am absolutely delighted to be here as well. When I started my career as a practitioner in science communication, just after grad school about 20 years ago, the very first project I worked on was a series of articles called Beyond Discovery: The Path from Research to Human Benefit, which was all about tracing the applications back to their basic research origins, which probably sounds pretty familiar because it is the approach that is often taken still today to make the case for basic research. But today, when I look around and think about the projects that I get really excited about, it's when I talk to scientists and they've been interacting with public audiences, and they talk about how that interaction has led to them asking new questions, thinking about things in new ways, where it really is a dialogue where the public and the scientists are benefiting. So I am really eager to get in and explore that further with all of you. I also, through my career, have very rarely had the opportunity to be at conferences that really all go across the different sectors in science communication, outreach, and engagement. Often I'm with all museum folks or all media folks. So I am amazed when I look at the breadth of the attendees we have, and I'm going to share a little bit about that now. So here's a list of all of the different professional sectors that are represented in the attendees. And the registrants now are up to over 2,300 registrants, which is, about 2,000 more than we anticipated. So we're delighted there. And you can see that, yes, we have a lot of academics you might expect, lots of people from government, students, but look at the wide range of different sectors, people from museums, from media, from the K through 12 space, maybe NSTA members, from the creative arts. We really have a wide range. And I think that that is really important because it's going to enable us to share in places that are normally siloed. We also have amazing geographic diversity. So we have a lot of people from the States. Also, countries with high numbers are South Africa and India. But we have 85 countries represented in the groups of registrants. So this truly is a global conference, and we are delighted to have all of you here, even if you're up very early or very late. But this wouldn't have been possible without the hard work of a small group of people. So I would just like to really tip my hat first to the leadership team. You can see a few of them already have spoken to you today, but there is a large number of people, both at Kavli, at DOE, and at the Science Philanthropy Alliance, that have put a tremendous amount of work to bring this conference to you. And I really appreciate all of that. Additionally, this group was guided by a steering committee, which I chaired. And the steering committee represents individuals from academia, practicing scientists who also do science communication, practitioners, trainers, as well as researchers. And you can see that this conference is really for the community, by the community. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Brooke to talk about how we developed the agenda.
Thanks, Erika. Yeah, I wanted to say a few words before we dive into the arc of the conference about how we came up with the agenda for this conference. So first, when we got started, of course, we wanted to know, what do we even know about this and what don't we know about this topic? So first, we enlisted the help of Doctors John Besley and Todd Newman, communication scholars, to dig into the literature. And they revealed during a pre-conference webinar last week that there's simply not much specific to basic science. Their insights will be shared later in the conference, and we'll provide links to that pre-conference webinar if you'd like to watch it, which I encourage you to do. But we also know a lot of great engagement work happens that is not published in the literature. So we set out to learn about this. We did this in two ways. First, we made a call to the community, all of you, to submit abstracts about your work to the conference. Our goal there was to surface, from those of you doing the work, examples of the types of activities and endeavors that are underway. These projects are featured in the poster sessions. I encourage you to go and watch the talks and attend the poster sessions. These posters won't just give you insights into the work of others. We hope it will also give you a representative sample of the types of work happening. And we'd really like to thank Gail Porter, who recently retired as communications director from NIST, who chaired the review committee who looked at these abstracts. Gail helped review the proposals, not just to ensure they were appropriate for this conference, but to look for themes. What are we seeing? Like lack of evaluation, a lot of one-way communication, not a lot of two-way dialogue. What she learned and what the committee learned from those abstracts informed some of the sessions you'll see here the next 2 days. And then we also wanted to be sure that we were uncovering work from people outside of our usual network, folks that might not get the call from abstracts from us. So for this, we enlisted the help of Dr. Karen Andrade, the Civic Science Fellow at the Science-Philanthropy Alliance. She reached out, calls and emails to people doing work to ask, what else do you know about? Who don't we know? Who else should we talk to? And then she reached out to them. She asked the same questions, and then she reached out to them, and so on and so on. This sleuthing uncovered more examples that are highlighted in the panels the next 2 days or featured in poster sessions. So John, Todd, Gail, and Karen met with the leadership team and the steering committee along the way to share their insights, and we discussed them. And that really helped shape the arc of this conference. There's actually a session that I want to draw your attention to at 9:25 Pacific time today, where John, Todd, Gail, and Karen will share some of these insights to get a look under the hood as to how we designed this conference. So that remarkable work, plus great conversations with our steering committee, really shaped what we have in store for you. I'm going to turn it over to Rick now to talk through what to expect the next 2 days. Rick?
Thanks a bunch, Brooke, and my thanks too to the great team that helped put this conference together. Now, over the next 2 days, you're going to hear from a rich mix of scientists and science communicators, scholars and trainers, who have all kinds of reasons why we should both invest in this kind of basic science itself and in engaging the public about it. From those scholars, we'll hear about how to understand the science of public engagement with basic research. And we'll hear from you as you share your experiences communicating about basic research and about some of the out-of-box ways that we've already heard about and that are being on display today at the conference. Now, we've framed this conference around 3 overarching questions, and you've seen references to these off and on as you registered and through the website. And those 3 are, why do we engage the public about basic science in the first place? What do we get out of it? What do they get out of it? What are we doing now in public engagement across various institutions and platforms now? And finally, how should we be doing public engagement with basic science going forward? And how can the Kavli DOE Science Public Engagement Partnership contribute to that? Today's sessions are all about defining terms and what they mean for effectively communicating about basic science. And we'll kick off with a session exploring what we mean exactly by public engagement and how it might differ from a lot of the communication about basic research done in our community. For each plenary like that, we also have some related deeper dive discussions. And then we move next to putting public engagement with basic science into its societal perspective to focus on why it's important to communicate about basic science. Next up from that is a highlight for me in conferences like this. It's a selection of curated poster presentations submitted by many of you for this conference and the splash talks that the poster presenters put together for them. And I encourage you both to listen to the splash talks and to talk to the authors of the posters while they're in their sessions. Another deeper dive session will be exploring how we do public engagement in basic science communication. And our last session today will explore how curiosity, wonder, and awe can drive public engagement where the practical relevance isn't yet known irrelevance. It's a pretty great conference, huh? Wait, that's just the first day. Tomorrow, we're going to turn our attention to critically examining whether our public engagement activities are equitable and inclusive. And that's an important objective of this conference as well. And we'll have a chance to visit a second set of poster presentations before we hear a timely case study from a Nobel Prize laureate who saw her very, very basic research morph into one of the hottest tools in the biotech portfolio and all the communication that attends that. And we turn our attention to what's next with some insightful commentary from 3 rapporteurs who are going to be looking across the conference for common themes and concerns. We hope you'll be talking to them as they do their sleuthing across the conference. And then it's going to be your turn, brainstorming sessions where together we can reflect on what we saw and heard and begin building a blueprint for the future of public engagement in basic science. And that's something that Keegan's going to reflect on in just a moment. One final deeper dive session is next, and then a palate cleanser from our friends at Science the Show before Brooke and I and Erika rejoin you for our first thoughts about synthesizing what we've learned. At DOE, we call these hot washes, so it'll be our first to sort of pull this together. Brooke, Erika, and I hope that you'll share generously with us, but also that you'll learn a lot about what others who share the goal of public engagement of basic science are doing and thinking, that you'll make new contacts, that you'll establish new working relationships, and that you'll develop colleagues who share your interests. And let's see all of you on the leadership board, a friendly competition to get us all plugged in. I had my 3 minutes of fame at the top of the leadership board very early, and I'm now in the dust, so just keep going. It'll be a great competition. Keegan, over to you to talk about those all-important brainstorming sessions that we're going to be queuing up.
Thank you, Rick, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am Keegan Sawyer. I'm coordinator for the Science Public Engagement Partnership at DOE, and I am so excited that we have so many people to come join us for this conference. I cannot overstate how much we all hope you will join the brainstorming sessions on day 2. Even though this agenda is packed with sessions, lots to learn, we actually didn't design this conference to provide you with answers about public engagement in basic science. This conference, we are interested in what questions we should be asking about communicating basic science effectively and ideas for how to get those questions answered. We will do this in the brainstorming session. It's an opportunity then to reflect together on what communicating the future means. What our community of basic research scientists, social science scholars, communication practitioners, trainers, so many different people, what we all envision for engaging the public in basic discovery science. We're going to do 2 things during the brainstorming sessions. We're going to identify research questions. What do we need to learn? We're going to outline, and the second thing, we're going to outline resources we need to answer those questions. And that's what will help us pave the way to the future. But before you virtually jump to bookmark those brainstorming sessions on your calendar, because I know you're all going to come, you'll notice there's PDF instructions, but no topics. And this is because we're charting a path to the future together. We need community input on what we're going to talk about. So if you haven't yet, please answer the very short survey to get your ideas and votes for those discussions and brainstorming. And I'll drop a link to the chat for that in a moment. So again, thank you so much for joining us on this new venture. And this is back over to you, Brooke.
All right. Okay, we are almost ready to dive in. Before we do, just a few announcements about things that are important to us and things that will make this a valuable experience for you and everyone here. First, I wanted to share explicitly that the SciPEP team, leadership, and steering committee have a very strong commitment to equity, diversity, and inclusion. It's been very central to everything we've been doing at SciPEP. We're constantly asking ourselves if we're being as inclusive as we can be, who is on our panels, who is advising us, what we consider engagement. So out of the blocks, our steering committee last year worked with us to be sure we had and we lived an equity statement. You can find that on our SciPEP website. I invite you to read it, to think about it, to channel it while you're at this conference and discuss it if you have other ideas about it. In this spirit, it's also very crucial to us that we have a commitment to meeting principles and practices while we're here together at this conference. We'll put those up on the screen right now. You can also find these on one of the tabs on your lobby page, so you can get there easily. This is to ensure that we as a community, everyone here, treat each other with respect, humility, and an open mind the next 2 days. If you have any concerns about these or want to report a violation of these practices and policies, there's information in that tab for how to do so. But I know with this great community, we're going to have a great conference and everyone will treat each other as they wish to be treated and with respect. So we hope everyone here will continue to introduce us at SciPEP to your peers and who are here that couldn't attend so we can expand our networks. We'll do the same so we can grow as a community. And with that, we will head into our conference.